Welcome back, everybody. We are so glad to be back in front of you tonight, and we hope that you had a great Christmas holiday.
Yes, Merry Happy Christmas.
Merry, happy Christmas, all of it.
All of it, all of it.
Yeah.
I love Christmas, and not for the, gifts and all of that stuff. It's fun and everything, but I just get choked up because I think about Jesus, and I'm a crier.
I think you've been crying more here lately.
I
too.
mean, yeah, but I get
It's
really
rightful.
emotional about just the whole thing. Like he didn't have to give us juice, but I'll get into a whole spill of that. So
Yeah.
we don't have to go there.
Well, if this is your first time joining us, I am Travis Burkhalter, go by Coach Burke, and this is my beautiful bride, Brianna. And we have been doing this for quite a while. We've been off and on, but this time we've been right on time. We've
Yep.
been
You may know us as People of Hope. That was the name prior to, and we still use that name. That's still part of us. But here we are on Happily Ever After Hours, and this show is just really talking about a little bit of everything. Like, yes, we talk about relationships, we talk about friendships, but we also talk about ourselves, and that's kind of where we are with this particular series of My Name Is. And I think it's been great for, I know me personally.
Yeah, I think it's made me lean back into myself a little bit more.
Yeah.
And really try to figure out again who I am walking through this life. Because, as we said, if you have not checked it out, we get a lot of names put on us. And we want to make sure that we're keeping what God calls us.
Yeah.
The main thing. Because people are going to call you all kinds of names. Do those stick? No.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure that these names that God has called us, these are the names that we want to walk with.
Right.
And kind of, I think, be ambassadors of the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah. I can't think of what movie it's from, but it said it's not what you're called, it's what you answer to. And it's the same thing. We're going to be called all kinds of things, and it may be some stuff that may be true to our past.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you have to stay in it. So,
That's true.
With that being said, before we get into what our name is this time around, I got a question.
Ooh, I like opening up with the question.
Okay,
Instead of just
okay.
popping in the middle? Okay,
No.
what's the question?
We're going to open up with the question
I like
because
it.
the question makes sense to what we're talking about today.
Okay.
So, the question is, what's a mistake that took you a long time to get over, or someone you had to or like a situation or someone that you had to forgive?
Oh, that's
You
a
can
tough
do
one.
either one.
Well, I'll go with the forgiving thing, right? I held a grudge, and I will hold a grudge for the longest of times.
It's what we're the same. It's not a good thing.
But I've learned and grown from it, because again, the name, like you said, the name today, it helped me, right? Let it go. And so I held a grudge against some friends of mine, and you know the story. And so I was just upset with how I was treated, and I don't feel like as you are the one that's slighted, you never feel like you were given the due diligence, I guess.
Yeah.
Of things. And if the situation that was brought to me, I'd be like, oh, cool, go ahead, But when people are sneaky, we talked about that earlier today. It really bothers me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like people moving in silence like lasagna.
Yeah.
It just be straightforward with me and be straight up. Because if you are, then I'm like, oh, cool, no, bro, no problem. You know what I'm saying? But once I didn't get those things, I was upset for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And I remember driving home drunk. I should have been drunk.
Don't drink and drive.
Don't drink and drive. I wasn't really drunk. I was buzzed. But
Still.
yeah, buzzed is drunk. But so I was upset, and I'm driving home, and I'm like, they have wronged me, and this person wronged me. They don't even care. Like, I could drive off the road. I was going through it. Like, I was upset.
You didn't tell me that part.
Yeah, because all that's just not coming back. But so I was upset, and I think as I was almost around the corner to my apartment at the I just remember inside my soul that how do you expect to be forgiven if you can't forgive them?
Hey,
And I was like, ooh,
daggers.
yeah. Again, we talked about the stone in the eye or the stick in the eye. I had a log in mine, so yeah, I think that was one for me that I was just really upset, and I'm glad that I got over that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they got over that situation. They probably didn't have a situation. The last thing I'll say about this is most of the time when you're angry at somebody, it's like hoping that they drink the poison that you drink, and there's hope that it hurts them, but it's just hurting you instead
Yeah,
of yourself.
they've gone on about their
They've gone on about their
business.
business. They're happy, they're doing their thing, and you're just over there just
Yeah.
just frustrated. So I had to let that go, and I'm glad I did because I wouldn't be kind of who I am today if I kept holding that on. So yeah, it was a good like 4 or 5 years that I held on to that, and I was just like, man, hey, that's shiesty, man.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what about yourself, love?
Ooh. Well, as y'all know, we've talked about it in previous episodes that forgiveness is a tough one for me.
It's something it is for everyone.
Yeah. But gosh, I was gonna go with someone that I had to forgive, but then you did, so I feel like I should do the other one. But
I should have let you go first. My fault.
No, you're good. I'll say, no, I'm still gonna go with the someone I had to forgive because I feel like that's the one God wants me to talk about. So I had a family member. I'm just gonna say family member because if I say specific family member, people will know who I'm talking about.
If they happen to watch this, they can be like,
they were like, we knew.
Hey,
But I had a family member that just wasn't a good example of a Christian that I needed at the time, and I tried to talk to this person like an adult. I wanted to talk to them face to face, and I was kind of brushed off like a child, and I was in college at the time, so I felt like I should have got a little bit more respect. Granted, I was still younger, but a little bit more of like, okay, let's talk through these things. But I didn't, and there was a lot of hurt and a lot of things that went through that could be a whole episode in itself. But I literally didn't go to family functions because of this one person, because I didn't want to see this one person, because I knew if I saw this one person, I was at the point in my life where I didn't care and I was going to blow the club up, basically.
She's not a wild out type person.
No, but I was going to say what I needed to say. And it was a lot of personal things that this person was getting in the middle of in my house. And I didn't like it. So anyways, that happened quite a long time ago. And I will say maybe whenever we moved out here. So about 2.5 years ago is when I really forgave this person.
Man.
Because I realized that me holding on to the unforgiveness with that person, like you said, wasn't doing me any justice. And it was kind of a twofold thing. So one part of it was like, in my head, the vengeance is mine, says the Lord, where it's like, I ain't got to worry about it because God's going to handle that situation. But I had to mature in the fact of not looking at it in a petty way of like, yeah, God's going to get you for doing me wrong. So then I had to go into the second part of it where, like you were talking about, how the forgiveness is not always for that person, it's for you. Yeah. And looking at it in the point of, what really is forgiveness, and once you understand that, and you understand how God forgives us in the things that we do wrong every day, it makes it easier to forgive someone, even with the stacked on stacked hurt that this person I felt caused me for many years. I was able to let it go because I was better.
And it reminds me of, I think Peter might have been my favorite disciple because I'm Peter. Like, man. I'm a wild out type of person sometimes. Like, I will go 0 to 100
Yeah.
I really will. I'm like Peter in that aspect. And, it's like, how many times I forgive him, God? He did the 70 times 70,000 or whatever. And it's like, you wrong for that. Like, why would you make me have to swallow that pill?
Yeah.
I gotta forgive them that many times over. And it's like, there's no limit amount of times how I should forgive somebody else, because there's no set limit of how many times God has forgiven us.
Yeah.
And so, that's a big step, I think, for a person to be able to forgive somebody else, because, sometimes you're not going to get that thank you, right?
Or I'm sorry.
You're not going to get that I'm sorry, right? You're not going to get that, you know what, it was my mistake. You may not get those.
And I think that's where I used to get hung up on, because I wanted people to acknowledge.
Mm-hmm. You want to be like Roman Reigns?
I wanted acknowledge me,
yeah.
and acknowledge what you did to me.
Right.
Or you're on my you're on my mental list.
Yeah.
Until I get that acknowledgement. Like, you don't even have to say sorry to me, but acknowledge that, like, hey, yeah, that was jacked up.
Yeah.
But when I didn't get that, it was like,
burn everything.
well, then you're stuck on my list.
Yeah.
For eternity.
Yeah. and that's crazy. But at the same time, that's human.
Yeah.
That's human nature. And we're called not to be of human natures. We're called to be ambassadors of heaven. As I am learning from Pastor Monroe, may he rest his soul.
Image bearers.
You know what I'm saying? So that brings us to the title.
Yes.
Which I think you probably could have picked up on what the title of this one is called. It is called I Am Forgiven. And we went back and forth between two different names with this one. We're going to mix in the old name to see why we are forgiven. And the passage that we're going to use is from Luke 5:31-32, and it says, Jesus answered and said to them, those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. And
now let me say something on this scripture.
And that just right there goes
Let me
for
say something on this scripture. Y'all, one thing, and we talked about this, and I'm not going to rant the way that I ranted when we talked through this, but I just want to say, like, I think sometimes we forget the purpose and the meaning of a church. Like, a church is not meant for perfect people to come into a perfect building and have perfect praise and worship, pretty praise and worship, sit down and have a perfect sermon, and then leave and go have a good old lunch and take a good old perfect nap on Sunday.
And then forget what you learned on Sunday.
Yeah, and then go back to whatever you're doing on Monday.
Right.
No, like, the church is a spiritual hospital. Like, no one is coming in there perfect. We all have our issues and things. Some may have more issues in that season than others, but it doesn't make anybody better than the other.
Yeah.
And so I hate when I see people talk about church hurt, or they talk about, feeling judged, or people judging others from, whatever they're going through, because that's not what I feel like God wanted the church to be about. We come in like, you go in like a hospital.
Yeah.
Like, you need that help. You need, that medicine to help you through whatever your sickness is. I'm using that as a metaphor. But yeah, we're all going through different things, and so that should be a place where we go and we say, hey, I'm hurting. And it's not even just about the building church. This is just in coming to God.
Yeah.
And so that scripture always resonates with me, because it takes me back to remembering that, like, we're all sinners. We're all going to fall short sometimes. We all make mistakes. We all have that unforgiveness, like we were talking about, or whatever the case is. And it's remembering that we are forgiven and what that looks like.
Another part, I'm gonna just go ahead and jump in on that, but another part that really gets me is he does not come to call the righteous.
Yeah.
And in this, he's talking about a lot of things, right? But there were some Pharisees and Sadducees that felt like they were righteous already. They felt like, oh, I'm good. I'm
perfectly perfect.
Yeah. Ain't nothing wrong that you can do to me. And then he has Matthew, whose name apparently was Levi first. His name was Levi. Then he got his name changed to Matthew. That still blows my mind, because That's not like talked
Wait
about.
a minute.
But
Yeah.
anyways, I digress. He didn't come to call the righteous. So I don't have to think that I already have everything in order. And if I do, then I'm putting on a false image.
Yeah. And that's so good because this world makes you feel like you have to have everything
Everything
together.
aligned.
Like even like you talk about sometimes with the kids and stuff when you're like, what do you guys want to do? And they're like, I got to get a job, I got to do this and this and this, and they're not enjoying, their
present.
time now because
Yeah.
they feel like they are already behind.
Yeah, and the world will make you feel behind.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that makes it hard to walk a straight line, to walk that narrow gate.
Yeah.
Because the gate is narrow, as it said in the good book. And the path that is wide is usually not the path that we want to walk on.
Yeah.
But again, he didn't call us to be righteous. We are already sinners. We were born into sin. When Adam didn't do what he was supposed to do, he failed us. We were born into sin. And the sooner I think we can accept that, the sooner that we can get the love and the forgiveness that God has already promised us. One thing I think also that'll help us is to know everything in this book is already that he said that we are given, and we've talked about it before. We already have it. We just
Right.
have to accept it, right? The thing that I'm starting to say in prayers when people pray for me is I receive it and I accept it, because I can receive something but I cannot accept it, right? Just because somebody gives me the flowers, I may not. Sometimes I feel like I deserve it,
Yeah.
right? And that is people. I think some people are obviously going to run away with it, but like, heck yeah, I deserve this. But at the same time, I deserve it all. All of what this is in this book that says I deserve it all.
Yeah.
Shout out K-Dot. But Man at the Garden is my favorite song at the moment. But I think that we are forgiven, and with that verse, it shows me that I can come as jacked up as I am, right?
Yeah.
And that I'm gonna still be forgiven.
Yeah, and I mean, look at a lot of the people in the Bible
Yeah.
that people are wanting to be like and everything. They had some issues.
Yeah, I mean the woman, the issue of blood, right? She was bleeding for 12 years.
Well, not even like
I'm just
that.
saying.
I'm
Not
talking-
that crazy. Sure.
I'm talking about like that. I don't feel like that one because that wasn't necessarily her fault.
It wasn't, but again,
was
that's what the world put on her. Like, oh,
Well,
you're
yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah.
You're a person that is bleeding. Ew.
Yeah.
But she knew in her heart of hearts that if I could just touch the hem of his his robe, that I'm going to be healed and forgiven.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, I'm talking about like Noah. Noah was a drunk.
Sure. David
Moses was a murderer.
Moses was murdered. David was a lustful man. So
Yeah.
was Solomon.
Yeah. Samson too.
Samson was as well. He had his hand in a couple of things.
Yeah.
You know.
But I'm saying that God used all these people.
He uses imperfect people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
And so remembering those things helps. I know it helps me. It's like I don't have to be a perfect person, especially someone that is a recovering people pleaser. That's what I like to say.
I'm recovering people pleaser.
It helps me to remember that because I don't feel like I have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Now I still try to do my be the best Brianna that I can be, but
it's like I heard, and it was a snippet of the pivot when Titus O'Neil, apparently his name is Thaddeus, which it kind of goes with it. He played at Florida. I didn't get to finish it all, but he was saying in one of the snippets that if today that I come out and I give 60%, right? That 60%, make sure it's the best 60% of myself.
okay.
Right? If it's 70%, 75%, whatever the percentage is, it's not always going to be 100%. I'm not going to always be 100% perfect in how I move or how I talk to my children or how I talk to you or how I talk to my students or whatever, whoever I encounter. I'm not going to be perfect, but I do want to be. If I'm getting 7 hours of sleep, I want to try to be as close to 100% that I can be because I got the amount of sleep. But say if I got 4 hours of sleep, I still want to be as close to that 100% that I can be.
Man,
right? Because I know it's tough.
I felt that.
I know it's tough.
I felt that 4 hours.
I know it's tough, but again, I'm trying to get into my head that I am an image bearer
Mm-hmm.
and that I'm an ambassador to the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of helps us move to our first point is how does God look at us as a sinner? Right? He already knew that we were going to sin. Right? He's omniscient and he's omnipresent.
You know what though? Like, it just came to me. Although he knows that we are going to sin and we're going to make mistakes, I don't think he looks at us as sinners. I think he still looks at us as like what we talked about, like his children, and all the things that he gives us, the grace and mercy, the dominion, the honor, everything that he gives us. I think that he still looks at us in that way. And that's part of us being forgiven, is that God doesn't even look at our sin not that he doesn't look at our sin. He doesn't look at us as sinners.
Yeah.
He looks beyond our actions and beyond the mistakes that we made and says, but you're still my child. Yeah. I still love you.
And that brings me to a good point. Right now I'm reading Isaiah, and it is talking to your boy. We live in a world that we are idolizing celebrities left and right. They're called stars. There's people that use sage. There's people that, they're idols. There's people that still wear chains with a cross, and it says in the Bible, don't wear a cross bearing my image because it is blasphemous, basically. But in this one, he's talking to Israel, right? And it's talking about idolatry is foolish, and it's talking about how Israel is not forgotten. But this comes out of Isaiah 44:22. It says, I have blotted out like a thick cloud your transgressions, your mistakes, your sins, right? And like a cloud, your sins return to me, for I have redeemed you. I have forgave you. I've already forgiven you. So that to me is very helpful for myself. Not that I'm going to go out and say, oh, I'm about to go out here and do this. No, it's just not, if I make a mistake, that he's going to blot out my transgressions. He's going to blot out my mistakes. Yeah. And as that is said, that's how I should also treat other people. I should treat my children when they say, if I let Robin pour some water and she spills it, I should forgive her. She's 3. Yeah. I shouldn't flip out.
It's funny that you mentioned her, because I was literally just thought of something in my head, because Robin's in this phase where when she knows something is wrong or she messed up or something, she's like, hug, can I have a hug? Like, oh geez, I'm gonna get in trouble. Yeah. And it's just so funny because majority of the time she's not gonna get in trouble because we're like, she's 3, it's fine. But it's so telling to kind of how the Father treats us, because it's like we are harder on ourselves than I feel like God is, in a sense. Yeah. Like yes, we have to be careful of what we do and everything, hold ourselves accountable of, what we're doing. But I feel like we are much harder on the mistakes that we made, and we're the ones that are like, oh God, please forgive us. And he's like, I've did. Yeah. Like, what?
I will not hold it over your head.
You're fine. And that's the same way we do with Robin. Like, okay, you're okay.
Yeah, and I think that's just a good lesson to do with people as well, because a student is going to mess up, right? And I told the students this. There are so many things that I've been messed up about in life. My senior year in college, I had taken statistics, and it was my first time taking stats. I was not good at stats. Here's the thing. I'm not gonna say I wasn't good at stats. I was very okay because I understood the material, right? In class, I'm like answering questions, I know it. But then when it came to tests, I'm like out the door. Like I just cannot hold it in there what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I came up with this great plan. This girl was beside me. I don't know her name still to this day. But I was like, hey, help me out. Like, I'm trying to pass this class to graduate, right? So I didn't realize that the teachers gave you an A and B test.
That's what you get.
That's what I get. I got the A test. She got the B test. I got a 0 because I put all the answers that she had. And the professor calls me into his office, and he talks to me. He's like, hey, man, what's going on? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, because I sit in the first 3 rows. Like, coaches, they always say, hey, sit first 3 rows, make sure the professor knows your name, answer questions if you can answer questions. So I always did that. So I was like, so he knew that I knew the material. And he understood that I knew the material because he asked me questions about the material in this office. And I'm like, well, I'm in here, right? I had no idea still. And he's like, you got a 0 on your test. And he was like, you got caught cheating. And I was like, yeah, I did. And me admitting it helped me out because once you get caught cheating in college, you get expelled.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't expel me. He just made me do 45 hours of community service. And I was so thankful for him. And I got a 0 in the class. That's fine. It is what it is. I still graduated. I ended up with go get my master's. So I'm a smart man, but I made a dumb mistake. Yeah. And because he forgave me in that moment of making a stupid mistake, I didn't get kicked out of school to where I could not finish my collegiate career.
That's that grace.
And that was that grace that I needed from that professor. And I think that, man, I don't remember the professor's name, but it was very helpful that he did that for me, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that because that could have changed the whole trajectory of my life, really.
Yeah, and you could have easily just let it be and been woe is me, oh, I got caught cheating, and just let that steer you down a different path.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, God, like we said, he already knows the mistakes that we're going to make. He predestined what the vision is for our lives and the goals for our lives. It's just up to us to decide which road we're going to take. Are we going to take the straight road to whatever the destination is, or are we going to take the extra exits around the way? And you could have took the extra exits going, making it a harder
I could have denied and said, no, I didn't cheat.
Yeah, making it a harder road.
Right.
But you chose not to. So that's applause to you.
Yay! Thanks for me. But no, I was really sick with myself because I'm like, man, I don't do that. I was just like, it's my last class. I gotta pass it. I was just beside myself. Gotta pass this class.
Did I ever tell you the story of when I tried to forge my mom's signature?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I was in elementary school though. It's fine, but I mean, it's not fine, but it's fine. But yeah, that one haunted me for a long time. I was in high school and I was still man, that one time when
yeah,
it was crazy. But I got in trouble at school and I tried to forge and I remember, y'all. I'm gonna keep it short, but I can vividly remember when I got that and the note I had to get signed, and that night I waited all night, and that night I was like, okay, I have to get it signed or I'm gonna get in trouble at school again.
Why did you ask?
So wait, I was about to the house we lived in, we had a den upstairs, and my parents used to watch TV at night when we go to bed. And I remember walking up the stairs, and I got halfway up there, and I was like, I can't do it. And I turned around.
You were nervous?
I was terrified because I knew not only was I going to probably get a spanking, but also I knew because I got in trouble at school and
I had to get the note was in trouble at school.
Yeah,
so you didn't say that.
Oh, okay, yeah, the note.
Why would you be scared to ask?
No, I got in trouble at school, and my teacher gave me a note that my mom or dad had to sign, stating that I told them that I got in trouble at school.
Oh, okay.
And so I didn't want to tell them. So yeah, I got halfway up the stairs and I turned back around because I was like, I'm not about to get a spanking. And then on top of it, I was like, then my mom's gonna tell me about how I'm I gotta do better because Jesus is watching me, and now Jesus gonna be mad at me. It was a whole thing. And I was like, no.
Okay,
so
because that makes sense. I was like, why would you stop? I'm thinking for a field trip or
something. Oh, no.
Okay.
It's because I got in trouble being a follower at school.
See, I don't think you told me that part.
Yeah, man. Okay. And I went downstairs.
Now secrets.
And I went in my room and I sat there and I said, you know what? I'm about to sign her name.
Okay.
I'm in 3rd, 4th grade. What makes you think that you can forge a parent's signature? Mind you, this is when cursive was a thing. And I was really a beginner cursive person. And I was like, psh, I got this cursive.
So what does forgiveness mean to you then?
But I will say, it goes with your question and finishing the story. Okay. So anyways, obviously I got caught. But the way that I got caught was very petty upon the Lord because
Not petty.
because not only
You gotta have a relationship to call God.
yes, he knows what I mean. Like I love the Lord, but not only did they call my mom, before they even called my mom, my dad just happened to be up at the school. He was a middle school coach. I was in elementary. These are two totally separate buildings that he never comes to this building, but this day he just particularly decided he was going to come visit his friend that was the PE coach for the elementary school, and I happened to be sitting out in the hallway because I got caught forging a signature, and now my dad's like, "Why are you in the hallway?" And I was like, "Oh my God.
Double whammy.
This is why I don't lie, because Jesus always figures it out." Like I was so. But anyways, I say all that to say, yes, I got in trouble, but my parents didn't punish me the way that I thought I was going to get punished.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, I got in trouble. I think I got grounded or something like that. But they were just like, if you would have told us, it could have been a conversation and we could have got over it. And then it was like, fine.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, this is trickery. Why is it fine? And I feel like sometimes that's how we react to forgiveness when we don't forgive ourselves. Yes, I was a kid and, you know, I made a mistake or whatever, but I think that we all have a little kid inside of us sometimes.
Not even sometimes, I think all the time.
Yeah, and when we make mistakes, sometimes we don't give ourselves the grace that we need, and that's part of forgiveness. I mean, forgiveness is so many things, but one of the things is the restoration. I think that's the biggest part for me is understanding that.
Now, is that restoring something?
Yes, it's like a refresh. It's like it's a refresh almost. Like it's when I think of it, it's like, you know how people get the old furniture and they go and they like make it new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same thing because the more that we make mistakes, the more it chips away at the person that we're called to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we take that time to, one, forgive ourselves, two, understand that God forgives us, and go through whatever the steps it is to move past whatever the mistake was, I feel like that replenishes us, not back to the old piece of furniture we were, but a new piece that it's still us at the core, but now we've been refurbished into a new creation because we've learned through the mistakes we've made and through forgiving ourselves of what we've gone through and understanding that we're already forgiven.
Yeah, and I kind of feel, one, that your parents said that we could have just had this conversation just because it was like out of act of love as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And feeling that
because they knew it wasn't me, and that's the same thing with God. Like
He knows our
He
hearts,
knows who we
and
are.
He knows He judges us by. This is what I wish that the world would get to. I wish that the world would really get to judging everybody by the content of the character of the person that they are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, just because you're a black, white, Asian, Pacific Islander, or whatever, I have love for you, and I think I tell my students this. I have respect for everyone because we all are getting up, trying to figure out the best way to do life in our own ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I respect you in that sense, and I respect the fact that you get up every day and go to your job or go to your whatever it is, and you're trying to figure it out. So I don't ever want to make anybody else's life much harder than what it has to be.
Yeah.
Right? But even when they do make mistakes, again, black, white, and different, I want to be able to still give them love to say, you know what, you made a mistake. And against my own flesh desires of, I want to get my get back, I am going to let it be. Because again, me going outside my way, if I handle things my way, sometimes it can land me in a bigger situation than it need to be in, right? I can, and again, I've made a mistake by getting fired, I let my flesh win, right? By telling a kid to STFU. And that kid deserved it because after
It's not funny, but
it's funny now.
It's
laugh
funny
at it
now.
But after I did it, he got quiet because he realized, okay, I'm in the wrong, you know. And I can ask people time and time again, you know, why is it that you did what you did,
Mm-hmm.
right? And our immediate reaction to that is always going to be to save face, you know. And my next reaction, it needs to be, you know what? I don't even care what you did, right? It's all good. Water under the bridge, if you may, because
That's
I don't
when
want
you
to.
have that perfect peace.
You know what? And that's what I really want to get to in life, right? Because you know I am a hot-headed person. Like I said, I'm Peter. I'm gonna cut an ear off, metaphorically. But I want to get to a place where, you know, if somebody did do me wrong, again, you know, it is what it is. Again, the Bible tells us turn the other cheek, and people are like, no, forget that. I can't turn the other cheek. They got me. I gotta get my get back. And it's like, for what?
Yeah. It's so crazy because I'm like, even before I had Rosalind, but even more now. But the peace, I just like, once you get a taste of perfect peace, it's like, I don't want anything else.
Yeah.
And I'm not dealing with the unforgiveness anymore because that just takes away from me and my peace.
Yeah. I obviously don't condone it, but I've seen the Equalizer 3 the other night, and I was telling you about the story about how Denzel's character McCall, he was like, listen, I know all the bad things, and I'm just now getting peace in my life. You're not going to take away this peace.
No, you don't.
You know, he killed for this peace.
Yeah.
And that's really what people will do for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I will kill off relationships that disturb me of my peace.
I had a friend, I mean, we're still friends, I'll say that. I have a friend that was very upset about something. I didn't know she was upset. She finally tells me she was upset. It really didn't have nothing to do with me, but I was like, it's totally fine. And she was upset because I wasn't upset. And I explained to her, like, you know, I haven't lost any love for you. I'm not upset, but I also don't want to waste my energy on being mad or not forgiving you. So
it's draining.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost weird because it was like she was closer when she felt like I would react, but then when she saw that I didn't react, it was like, oh, and now we're fine, but it's like we're not as close. Mm-hmm. And it's like the last conversation we had was me saying like, I'm gonna protect my peace, but I don't have no issue with you. And I think it threw her off because looking back at our relationship, we've thrived on us talking about things that have made us mad. Mm-hmm. And that not necessarily between us, but like other people in situations.
Sure.
And
there's a saying for that. I can't think of it right now.
Trauma bonding.
Well, okay. Yeah.
We were trauma bonding. And so that's what we did. We talked about and complained about stuff. And so when I said I'm tired of complaining about stuff and it is what it is, it was like, okay. Well.
Yeah, I mean, but again, you know, by not doing that, you know, it's a love for myself. Of course, she wakes up. She cannot sleep through the night, Lord.
She said, I gotta make my appearance. Hey, sis.
But yeah, I think it's also an act of love for ourselves as well, to forgive. Because like we said earlier, most of the time, the act of forgiveness isn't for the person.
Right.
It's for myself. Because I don't want to hold on to something that doesn't belong to me.
Right.
Like, this anger is not me. I'm not an angry person. And people may sometimes feel like the other because I'm very just a passionate person, and it seems like, oh, he's angry because I'm talking loud. No, that's just me.
It's just a passionate, blunt person.
That's just and again, I want restoration to relationships. Like, there's a relationship that I would love to be restored, and I'm not going to be the first person to reach out, right? But again, I've came a long way from being upset at this person.
Yeah.
And as a parent, I'm learning that one, I get that, I get it. Parents, they make mistakes, right? They're not perfect people. I'm not expecting either one of my parents to be perfect, because they're not,
Yeah.
nor am I. But again, like I said, I'm not going to go out my way to start a conversation when I've said what I needed to say. And
Right.
if it feels that I haven't forgave you, that's a battle between you and you,
Right.
because I let it go. It may it may not be like, hey man, how you going? How's everything? I hope
Yeah.
But the door is open if you want to answer it.
Right.
And that's the same thing with God. He's like, the door is open, but you have to come and seek me.
Yeah.
Seek first my kingdom, and all these things will be given unto you. And that's kind of how I am in life right now. I am seeking. I'm playing hide and seek, right? I am.
Never play hide and seek.
I'm really trying to find them, because I want to be. I am forgiven, but I want to have a restoration over all the parts of myself where I feel empty.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, forgiveness is a promise, and it's just understanding, like John 3:16, like the forgiveness was given to us when Jesus died on the cross and when he rose, because people like to talk about him dying on the cross and they
Mhm.
forget about the rising part, because that's the part right there that is the restoration. You know?
Because at that moment when he came back out of the 3-day temple, he was going to raise this temple after 3 days. The people missed the analogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is fine. We miss analogies all the time.
And so it's understanding that forgiveness is that promise that we already have. He gave us that promise when we came out the womb. He pinky promised all our infant little pinkies.
Right.
But yeah, so it's just remembering that we are forgiven, like we've said a million times tonight, but not just
I just
saying
want to
it.
drive it home to let the people know that you're forgiven.
Yeah.
And
And not just saying it, but really believing it, because sometimes the enemy and our own thoughts, because sometimes we try to say everything is Satan saying, like, I ain't even bothering you right now.
Right.
But just remembering
you're doing bad on your own.
Right. Remembering that the enemy and our thoughts, our bad thoughts, our discouraging thoughts can only come through our past.
Yeah.
It can't be anything in our future, and it can't be anything created, because Satan doesn't create anything.
No.
He just distracts us with our bondage. And so if you allow yourself to understand who you really are, which is that you're forgiven and that God's given us that forgiveness, then you get rid of those chains, and then that's something that he can't hold against you.
Yeah. I think I think the biggest story that really comes to my head is the do you feel forgiven? It's kind of almost, it kind of touches the story of Job a little bit, because he went through a bunch of trials, but he knew that he was forgiven. He knew that he didn't do anything that was going to take away God's love for him, and he wasn't going to, nothing that happened to him was going to take away his love for God.
Yeah.
And Satan throughout that whole time was testing him, from his friends. Hey, you did this. You remember when you did that? Or, all three of his friends came up and was like, hey, this happened. And then his wife was like, hey, this happened. Like, why are you not upset? And he was just like, I'm not gonna bow down to this problem. What's going on right now, currently. And then once he got through that, he was given 3 times the amount of things that he previously had anyway.
Right.
Because he stayed true to himself. He stayed true to God. And God blesses those who stay true to him.
Yeah.
Right? And because we're forgiven, hold on to that. Like, hold on to when you get that negative thought or emotion that comes up from something that happened 10 years ago. Hold on to that. You know what? I'm forgiven.
Right.
It might seem a little counterintuitive a little bit, just because you're just like, I'm here in it right now, right? But again, your right now is not your future.
Yeah. It's not your forever.
It's not your forever, right? So I think that's something that we have to, again, receive and accept.
Absolutely.
And again, it's something that I'm still trying to receive, and that's still something that I'm trying to accept, because there are mistakes that happened in my life that I'm like, man, I don't know if this is gonna pan out, right? I think I could have brought that into my marriage now, of having a marriage that failed previously, and saying, you know what, and I did, right? The devil hit me up. He was like, bro, you ain't gonna never find love. You ain't never gonna find somebody that actually likes you for you. He's like, have you looked at you? Like,
is he weird? No, I'm just kidding.
No, real talk. Real talk. Like,
we're literally the same though.
But honestly, like when I was in that little 5 by 80 square foot apartment in Norman, Oklahoma, like those were the thoughts that was going through my head. Like, I'm not gonna be forgiven. I'm not gonna find a person that actually likes me for me. I'm not gonna find a person that's gonna love my son like I love my son. And all those things came to be false. Like, I know from the bottom of her heart that she loves Roman just as if she gave birth to Roman. Now, he may be a little hard-headed, but whose kids aren't? Right? We're hard-headed. And God is like, I blotted out your transgressions like a cloud. We're his kids, and he knows we're hard-headed. So, he doesn't hold that over us, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for God and the fact that he's given us an opportunity to be forgiven and to accept his love. So that's something that I will strive for daily.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you guys for listening and watching today. We just, again, want to remind you guys that you are forgiven and you are loved. And we just thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, like, comment, share, subscribe. Follow us on Facebook at Travis Bree People of Hope. And we just thank you guys for watching. Next time you see us, it'll be 2025, which is crazy.
Absolutely. Wow.
But yeah, so you guys have a great evening or morning or afternoon, whatever.
And a happy new year.
And a happy new year. And may God bless you and keep you and restore you. And we love you. Bye.
Peace.